Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Norton Planning Board's meeting of Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. This is a hybrid public meeting, so members of the public and members are welcome to join in person or remotely. In person, we are at the Norton Town Hall, 72 East Main Street. Via Zoom, the Zoom link is available in the meeting agenda or through meeting ID 638-929-1060. There is also a phone number for those wishing to dial in directly. The meeting will also be available on Norton Cable Access after the meeting and on the Norton Media Center's YouTube page. For future meetings, please feel free to email questions to the board ahead of the meeting to Brian Carmichael, town staff, so they can be read into the record and read by the members in advance. So with that out of the way, I'll call the meeting to order here. And as you can see from here, we are using the sound system here in the room, but I would say anybody who for members or anybody who comes up to the podium, please speak directly into the microphone. The virtual meeting going out via Zoom is picking up the audio from the room. So if you don't speak into the microphone, you will not be heard on the Zoom. So just going through that at the beginning, and we'll keep going here. Just for the record, we do have 5 members here in person and 1 member joining us remotely. Rob Welch, thank you for joining us via Zoom. And we have Eric Norris, myself, Steve Warshall, Laura Parker, and Alan Boulay here in person. So in terms of planning board business and policies, I don't think we have anything to get to today. We do not have any bills and warrants at this time. I do want to bring attention that Brian sent out some minutes for us to approve. I don't think I'm prepared to vote on these minutes this evening. Does anybody else feel differently?
I didn't get to them.
Didn't see that.
Okay. So let's please make sure that that we do take the time to review the minutes over our Thanksgiving break, especially when we're trying to avoid talking to relatives we don't like, and we'll be ready to look at those at our next session. Okay. The only other item on our agenda today is a continuation of site plan review SPR-6 and special permit SP-10. That's for 0 Hill Street, the owner Premier Fence LLC. I'll let the applicant come up here to the podium to just give a presentation on any updates that they've gone over, and then we'll have additional time for public comment and any questions. So, sir, if you could just please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Luke DiStefano with Bowler Engineering, Southborough, Mass. Similar to the last time we were here, there only seems to be a few outstanding issues as it relates to traffic that still need to be ironed out. And there's been a little bit of movement on that front, a meeting with the Traffic Safety Commission and some other discussions that have been had. So what I'd like to do is turn the presentation over to Gary McNaughton with Bowman, who can talk a little bit about traffic and some of the things that have transpired since the last meeting. Thank you.
Sir.
Thanks, and good evening again. It's Gary McNaughton with Bowman Consulting. I know I haven't been at the previous meetings, but I'm here to present kind of what's evolved on the project since the last time. There was a meeting with the Traffic Safety Commission last week. I understand the town planner was in attendance as well as other team members. And that group unanimously approved the project, felt there were no safety concerns. There was a plan that was developed that included some warning signage about some of the curvature in the roadway, installing new speed limit signs, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, installing some additional signage for blind driveways, and about the trucks entering from this project to try to make people more aware, make them, know those curves are coming and better obey the speed limit. There's also a right turn. Oh, sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want us to pull it up on screen so we can see
Sure,
it as you're
yeah.
speaking? Yeah, Paul or Brian, if one of you can just pull it up there. You're already ahead of me, thank you.
Great. So that's the plan that I was just referring to. You will notice there is a no right turn coming out of the driveway so that all the trucks are turning left, going down towards the signal. The one thing that I will notice that was not well received by some of the public safety officials was the speed humps and the installation of those speed humps. So the plan would be revised not to include those in any final edits, changes that came out of that traffic commission. But again, other than that, they did approve the project overall. The one other element to it is you'll notice that this has a speed limit of 30 miles an hour. My understanding is there's an item on the agenda for the selectmen for Thursday of this week to consider a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit posting on the roadway. So if that passes, then that signage would obviously be changed and updated to reflect that speed limit change.
Yes, understood, but at this point, we would be looking at what the conditions are now.
Correct, and everything we've done is based on not only the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, but the actual operating speeds that are out there. So all the sight lines that have been proposed, all the clearing, et cetera, are based on those higher operating speeds.
Okay, thank you. Other than the speed hump, which was not well received, anything else that you wanted to call out from the signage specifically, or kind of the overall plan that was discussed?
Yeah, as I said in the overview without it on board, so you're seeing curb signs, in advance of the curvature in the roadway, warning drivers of those upcoming curves, just making them more aware. Driving the road myself, it is fairly obvious the nature of the roadway, but those signs can additionally help calling out the blind driveway, where there's some limited sight distance to that driveway. And again, the trucks entering signs so that folks are aware that those commercial driveways would be in place.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'll just say if any of the members have any questions for you on this.
Certainly.
They'll make eye contact here in person, and Rob, I know you're virtual. Is there anything you've unmuted? Did you want to ask a question?
Yes, sir. Just curiosity, the speed humps, was the objection their impact on plows?
Again, I wasn't at the meeting, but I understand it was more the fire and police, and if you want to.
Oh, okay. And that's just curiosity, it doesn't change.
Right.
Thanks.
It was fire, police, and, those emergency services, and plowing.
I would think they would get the plows, I was wondering if that was going to become an issue. But yeah, just from my knowledge, thanks.
Okay. Additional questions from members here related to the traffic plan the traffic signage that's proposed, specifically. Obviously, we've talked about the traffic volumes at the site and the nature of the road a couple of times during this process. So. Okay. Thank you very much. Additional questions from members for the applicant that we wanted to bring up at this time? Otherwise, I'd see if there's any additional public comments that we wanted to have at this point. Okay, if there's anybody on the Zoom meeting who'd like to speak, please, I'll ask you to raise your virtual hand through the react function of the Zoom meeting. Otherwise, if there are people here in person who'd like to speak, just kind of raise your hand and then we'll call on people and go up to the podium to speak. Please. And I'll just ask that you adjust the microphone and speak right into it so that anybody on the Zoom can hear it, and just state your name and address for the record, please.
Lori Stewart, 51 Hill Street. I'm going to go back to what I've been saying all along. It's the width of the road. It is traffic, but it's the width of the road. Again, it was measured again last week, 17.6 in most areas. State recommendation is 24 feet. That road should be marked no trucks, which it hasn't been, and we fought for that for years. When Crane got theirs and Pine Street got theirs, that street cannot handle the truck traffic that we currently have. You guys have had the town push back the shrubbery, vegetation, 6 feet at least. What it allows me to do is drive onto that to get out of the way of a bus, a school bus. You keep talking about the location, where it is, where the driveways are going to be. It's on a curve. You can have signage all you want. It's not going to prevent accidents from happening. I mean, it's the width. It's the safety concern. And I haven't even touched on the hours of operation and quality of life for the residents on the street. You're talking 6 days a week. 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. I think I emailed you, Paul, and brought those concerns up. I haven't even touched on that. it's a safety concern as far as the width goes, and it is traffic. So, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Anyone else? Please.
Hi, I'm Netta Woods, 55 Hill Street. The driveway directly across from where they're gonna be coming out with their trucks. My quality of life is gonna be ruined. I've been here 33 years. I own my home. I pay my taxes. I shouldn't have my quality of life disrupted 6 days a week. Yeah, 5 o'clock in the morning start, so they're gonna start rolling in there, at what, 4:30, quarter of? It's not fair. It's not fair to me, my family, my foster children that I take care of. It's not right. And then we're only talking about when the streets are clear. When it starts snowing, the road's even smaller. It's even smaller. It's 17.6 feet width. It's gonna be even smaller after we start plowing. What's gonna happen then? A major accident? That's what's gonna happen. And then who's that gonna fall on? Everybody needs to think about that. This is a big liability, a very big liability.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. Anybody else here in the room would like to speak? Just looking for hands here. Yeah, please.
Amy Conley, 61 Hill Street. I just want to say too bad we couldn't do both Hill Street meetings tonight. Could have done the one that's for tomorrow night, tonight too. Anyway, I'll just say ditto to what Netta and Laura have already said. We're fairly new to Hill Street, but we have seen certainly lots of traffic, and it is hard to go by a bus or a truck and not have to swerve. And I think it's the same thing. You put up as many signs as you want, people are gonna speed. I mean, I am at least happy to say that the speed humps have been taken off, because I can only picture when those heavy trucks go by. I mean, our house, shakes from those really heavy trucks. So to have some trucks go by on those bumps would really be pretty loud right in front of our windows. So I just would say ditto to the same thing. I think it's really a safety concern. We have lots of bicyclists now, people that run on that street because of the rail trail right behind us. I just think it's an accident waiting to happen. If it's not a bicyclist, it'll be cars that are just not gonna see each other coming across that corner. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll say again, if there's anybody on the Zoom meeting who'd like to speak, I ask that you just kind of raise your virtual hand there. Or if you need to find the mute button, I am familiar with rambling until you need to find it, so just let us know. Until then,
I can't find my virtual hand, but I would like to say something.
please, if you could
Under
just
read.
state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Stephen Greenwald, I live in Upton, Mass. I'm the attorney who represents the owners of the property, and I've listened to everything that's been said, and I'm not unsympathetic to what the neighbors are saying, but my understanding of it is that this is a permitted use. My understanding of it is that the traffic study did not show much, if any, increased traffic or impact on the traffic in the area. And having met with police, with fire, with traffic safety, all of whom are in support of this, I don't understand how you could look at this and say that this isn't acceptable, because you're essentially saying that the land can't be used because it doesn't have an impact. It's an existing condition, and I just, the applicant has really gone out of their way to try and accommodate in any way that they can to make the situation better. But this is a permitted use. And I just, it's not like there's gonna be heavy traffic going at all hours and really changing traffic patterns. That's just not the case. So I just don't know what could be done with this land and how it couldn't be approved. Because, like I said, it's permitted use and they've done everything that they can do. That's my comment.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your comments. The applicant is asking us for a special permit for reasons under our bylaw, and that's why we're evaluating it. And how we look at that and how we look at a permitted use on an industrially zoned parcel, which we understand. Everything has to play into what we look at, and obviously listening to members of the public who have feedback is part of that process, so thank you.
I understand. Thank you.
Rob, I see you have your hand up here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. One, just for people on the call, because I went through this, I'm used to Teams and Zoom was somewhat new to me. That hand raise is under the React thing. The icon looks like a heart and says React. If you click on the little up arrow from that, that's where your raised hand is. Because I understand a lot of people just having trouble finding it. And then I was also going to mention that it came attached to one of the emails today. There's also a letter from Lori, the person that spoke earlier too, just to make sure we draw people's attention to that. It's largely what she said here, but so that everything does get considered.
Thank you, Rob. Anyone else either in person or on the Zoom meeting who'd like to speak here this evening? Okay. I see it too, yes.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you wanted me to respond to any of those comments.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd like to speak to it, you certainly can. I know we went through the traffic study, and I think there's a difference between does a traffic study show a fundamental impact on traffic volumes through the road, and will it impact the neighbors? Obviously, there's various levels of degrees there that the board will have to look at and consider, but.
Right, and we're looking at the roadway operations, and, you know, as we noted in our report, there wasn't a significant impact from a traffic perspective. That was peer reviewed, which supported the findings, and they had a couple of comments that we responded to, improve some of the sight distance based on the higher speeds as a result of that peer review. Again, that peer reviewer was satisfied, and then most importantly, went to the public and the Traffic Safety Commission. All of the public safety officials reviewed it and also considered this project to be, acceptable and unanimously approved it. So we feel as though we've addressed the concerns from a traffic operations and safety perspective. I understand there may be other concerns, but I just wanted to make sure that that was explained, and we did address all of those and consider all those. We looked at crash history, et cetera, as part of that process.
Yeah, I would say I thank the applicant for all of the steps that you've taken to accommodate the requests that this board has made. I think that you have given the use that you're proposing at the location you're proposing it. I'm not sure if you could do anything differently. It's a matter of how we evaluate the totality of this at this site. Members have any additional questions for the applicant, for the engineers here? Anything further?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to clarify, we have 3 waivers also. I've only written down 3.
Sure. Paul, can you just clarify the relief that the applicant's asking for here?
Can I go through all of them?
Please.
Okay, so there's actually 2 special permits, one for,
I'm not sure if you're going to the mic enough as you need, so I'll just,
okay.
I may be doing it too much, but.
I don't know, I'm not paid for this. But there are 2 special permits. One is because the building is over 10,000 square feet or 25 parking spaces. They also need a special permit for earth removal because they're proposing over 500 square yards of of bill removal. And then a site plan approval because they're over 2,500 square feet. And as Alan mentioned, there's 3 waivers, one for driveway width, because they're proposing from 50 feet to 24 feet. They're looking for a waiver for, on the landscape buffer area requirements and the parking lots, and then finally, the scale of view of the plants.
Just the map scale that's specified in our bylaw that has been there since, what, the 80s? Yeah,
Correct.
okay. So with that being said, is there any specific clarification that we'd like to get from the applicant on any of those waivers or permits? Okay, not hearing anything from the members here. And I see one person probably from the member of the public who wants to just ask a clarifying question here. Sure.
Amy Conley again, 61 Hill Street. Just in regards to what he just said, I'm not sure if anyone on the Transportation Commission actually lives on Hill Street. It's not about the traffic, it's not about the increased traffic, it's about the width of the road. And I believe the traffic study already showed that people go way over the 30-mile-per-hour limit, 40. I can actually state that we hear how fast people go. We see the trucks that go from the Win-Win. We hear the 18-wheelers, we see the school buses on the street, and it's not about the traffic. You also have to figure in the noise factor. We're gonna hear more trucks right across the street in the morning. We're gonna hear them coming in and out of their driveway. So it's not about, and I understand from what Mr. Greenwald said, it is an industrial zone, but this has been an industrial zone for a very long time. On the other side is a residential zone. This street was not made to be equipped for industrial traffic. Those buildings that were there were not there when this was bought by the state many, many years ago. So I understand it's zoned industrial, but it doesn't mean it's equipped to handle industrial traffic. It certainly doesn't right now, and adding to industrial traffic will not help. Thank you.
Thank you. I did see one other person on the Zoom pop their camera on. If they're looking to speak, I'll just give them a moment while I ramble here into a microphone and make a fool of myself. Not that that's anything new. But if they'd like to speak, please just raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll turn back to members here and again ask if there's any specific related to the relief that the applicant is asking for here. Otherwise, Rob, yes?
Yeah, just one more question. The attorney here earlier was stressing very much how they met all legal requirements. Does that mean that, and I'm just gonna ask a blunt question, if we did not approve this, we might have to face that in court?
I mean, I don't think we need to get into that hypothetical at this point, but I think that once we close the public hearing, that's something that I would go back to, Paul, I think your initial memo on this kind of laying out with an allowed use on the site, what is our decision and what are our criteria to evaluate?
I'm gonna take it back for now, Tim. I can rephrase this in a way it's not a hypothetical, but I think it'd be more appropriate in the conversation you just alluded to.
Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing any further questions from the board here. I'll ask if the applicant wants to come up. Did they pop out of the room there? I think they may have popped out of the room here.
I guess I'll try to kill time then, as you've been doing.
No. I was just gonna ask if there was anything else they wanted to add to the record, or whether they would be comfortable with the board closing the public hearing at this point.
Yeah, I
So
know,
that's maybe a question that, here they come back. So, So I'll just say at this point, if the board doesn't have any additional questions, I'll ask if the applicant, if there's anything else that they would like to add to the record, or they would be comfortable with the board closing the public hearing at this point. And again, closing the public hearing would mean that we would not accept any further comments from the applicant, with saying that we feel that we have heard from members of the public what we think we need to hear at this point to make a decision. So I always like to get the applicant's check mark before we move to close the public hearing.
Yeah, the only thing I would add with regards to the width of the roadway, and again, that was factored into the review on all fronts. But, you know, it kind of cuts both ways. The wider the roadway, the higher the speed. And, you know, myself driving in here, came up Hill Street, 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, then turned on to South Washington Street, 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. Much more comfortable to drive faster on South Washington Street. So, you know, given this use, and it's not a heavy industrial use, it's not tractor trailers constantly in and out, it's much more contractor-based vehicles, and that this roadway can handle those vehicles. And, you know, a wider roadway may in fact cut the other way and increase speeds and potentially decrease safety for residents and for some of those bikers and the other uses that are happening on this street. So trying to strike that right balance and some of those mitigation measures with the signage, trying to better, you know, make drivers more aware of the appropriate speeds and the conditions, are all things that we've tried to do to mitigate any impact from the project and improve the operations on the roadways.
Understood that you've made those adaptations as best you can, but obviously and you've been forthright about what the volumes from the business would be and the hours and all of that, yeah.
Thank you. I think at this point, given what we know to be the issues and where we've been, the applicant is at a point where they feel that they've done everything that they can to, again, mitigate the perceived impacts of the project on the roadway. So at this point, you know, knowing that we've had our traffic engineers, we've had the town's peer review engineer, we've had the Traffic Safety Commission all look at this, we've proposed off-site improvements that all are designed to, again, help mitigate this perceived impact to the roadway. So at this point, again, I don't think there's any sense in carrying on or continuing the hearing. So the applicant is requesting that the hearing be closed and ultimately a vote be taken.
Thank you. So again, from members here, is there anything further we'd like to ask the applicant or get from any other source prior to that motion? Otherwise, we usually have plenty of people ready to make a motion.
Almost.
Motion to close the public hearing on special permit number 10 and site plan review number 6.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Laura and a second from Alan. Is there any further discussion on the motion to close the public hearing? Okay. I will go through the roll for a vote. So Eric, I'll start with you.
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So the public hearing is now closed. Do members feel that they want to continue discussion this evening? We can continue discussion and have a vote at a later date.
I'm comfortable taking a vote tonight.
Okay.
Same.
Same.
Okay. Paul, do you want to just bring up your initial memo here? I'm not sure if you want to pull it up on screen. That may be helpful, just to lay out kind of from a planning perspective, from an as-of-right use or an allowed use on an industrial site. But they are asking for discretionary special permits at this point, so.
Okay, I'm just pulling that up. So, with the special permit regarding the building being over 10,000 square feet, there's no specific criteria that you have for this, as you do, and I'll explain with the earth removal. So the standards are typically, is it socially and economically desirable? Would it satisfy an existing need? Do the advantages of the proposal outweigh by far any detrimental effects? That such effects on the neighborhood environment shall not be significantly greater than could be expected from development if the permit or special permit were denied, that the applicant has no reasonable alternatives, and that specific conditions to minimize detrimental effects and protect the neighborhood have been imposed, and if necessary, secured by bond or otherwise. For the special permit, it's primarily that the removal of the fill does not have a detrimental effect on the surrounding land uses, nor will it have an adverse environmental impact. The standards for site plan are similar, but again, this is a non-discretionary approval, so that means if all the boxes are checked, you would need to approve the site plan. So with site planning, we look at issues such as parking, landscaping, traffic, sorry, I'm just going through this, stormwater, of course, and other environmental impacts. And then the requested waivers, we've gone over. It's, again, they're looking to reduce the industrial driveway width of a two-way street from 50 to 24 feet. And then they have their buffering requirements for both between the building and the street, as well as the parking lots. And that was largely driven by the existing vegetation that's on Hill Street now.
Okay. But in terms of, kind of as the applicant's attorney was speaking to, as a allowed use in industrial zone, kind of guidance from to the board in terms of how we look at that.
So if this building had been under 10,000 square feet, this would be a site plan approval.
No special permits at all?
No, it triggered it because of the size of the project, which went over 10,000 square feet, and then the fill, the earth removal aspect of it. But the use itself is allowed by right. A warehouse use is allowed by right in industrial.
And this would be warehouse and manufacturing as well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Rob, I see you have your hand up in the Zoom. I'll ask if you just wanted to.
I do, but you guys, the time you're doing it, I think is starting to answer my question, and I'm going to rephrase it. I think you know what I was trying to ask a minute ago. I'm sorry, I was getting a pop-up about my hand. I think you know where I was trying to go. I'll rephrase that. Is the as you know, there can be points where we sort of don't have a legal right to say no if they've met all legal requirements, and it's, by right, all of that. And so when I'm trying to ask a more technical question, Paul, you might even be you're the most familiar with how these rules work. Are we in one of those positions where we sort of, we can be challenged for saying no, basically? I'm trying to figure out how to phrase that. I don't want to sound like just me. I felt like the attorney was stressing that point a few times, so I just want to.
Well, that's what he's paid to do, but.
Yeah.
Any decision you render on any project, whether you support it or not, is subject to an appeal.
By any party.
But, right, by any party of interest. So it could be an applicant, it could be an abutter, it could be someone who's not an abutter but requested to be part of this whole process.
I'm not sure if anything come since you've joined the board, Rob, but I think I've been sued 5 times, 6 times?
At least.
I think
Something
we're up
like
to
that.
6.
I get 2.
Yeah. I think I have one already too, but that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm just curious, is that kind of in play? That's what I was trying to figure out, the technical, I mean more in the technical sense, not what people intend to do.
I think from the criteria that you laid out, Paul, the earth removal has specific conditions
Yes.
tied to environment and those kind of, and surrounding area. The size special permit of the use is the discretionary permit that is the question. And that falls back to our core special permit conditions, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Am I good to make a comment?
Steve, please.
All right, so we're up for two things here, two special permits. One is for the scale of the project, the size of the building, the amount of vehicles. And I think in our commercial and industrial zoning, that special permit for scale is the most important mechanism we have in that chart, because it lets us hold back by right uses or special permit uses from going too far. So I think making use of that when it's important to is our prerogative. And then for the earth removal, not so much taking the earth, but when I look at this project, the site plan, almost all of the landscaping, the added earth, the fill that they bring in after the project's done, is far into the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. And that will be radically changed. Then that's far beyond where the building itself is or the parking lot. And there's a whole 2 drainage systems that are out in the 100-foot buffer. I think it does exceed what is necessary or available as a by right use. I think the comparable industrial projects on that road, one used to be a landfill and now there's 2 solar farms. They don't receive traffic except for maintenance workers once in a while. And that might be the appropriate scale of industrial use for this type of land, of area. And I think further along, Hill Street might want to petition to become a scenic road, because in our town bylaw we have that, and like Bay Road is one of the scenic roads. It's protected from overdevelopment.
And scenic roads have a whole bunch of bylaws associated with them. I think, I remember we had to notice a tree a few years back for a scenic road. We had to put the notice on the tree because it was a very special tree.
They can't cut down the big trees without the tree warning.
Stone walls.
Yep, trees and stone walls.
The tree's the one that I remember the most,
Yeah.
but yes. Okay. Additional.
Does that mean places where, some of the places, I drove Hill Street, I even went and did it again, and there are some spots where you are kind of tucking your car right up around a tree, staying on the road. Is that saying there's a restriction, they could never go remove those trees to make it safer?
Not without permission from our tree warding.
Which in the town ordinance, the highway department.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. Additional comments, questions for Paul or for others based on the application and the relief that they're seeking?
I guess my only question would be, do you want to take both these special permits separate, the earth removal separate from the?
Separate, yes, because they have different criteria.
Correct.
Because the earth removal has its own earth removal criteria, and the other ones are core special permit criteria.
Correct. And then incorporate the waivers into the,
Let's see, the site plan we have for the scale, and the other waivers are for parking, and they're all site plan related items.
Correct.
So yes, the waivers would be
waivers
tied
will
to
go
the
to the
site
site
plan.
plan.
So additional questions, comments?
If I could,
We do have the option, if we want to delay decision to a future meeting, that's our choice.
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready.
I personally would like a chance, but, I'm gonna kind of go with the majority on that.
Understood. Laura, you wanted to say something?
yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what Steve had mentioned in terms of the Norton bylaw was adopted for the purposes of promoting health, safety, convenience, and the welfare of the inhabitants, and to encourage the most appropriate use of the land for the purposes stated in Chapter 40A of the laws. And I would like to point out, which I have before, that this board is not opposed to appropriate industrial development on this road. We have approved another applicant who wanted to move their headquarters to Norton on the parcel right next door. Also to the chagrin of the residential butters, I would just like to add. But we ultimately did approve that, so I would just like to demonstrate that we are listening, but size and scope matters.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Otherwise, if there's any action or motion from members,
I'll make a motion to approve the earth removal special permit with standard conditions.
Seconded.
okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the earth removal specific special permit. And again, the conditions for approval on that, Paul, if I can just make you say those one more time, because I'd love to hear your voice.
So for the special permit for earth removal, the planning board, the special permit shall be issued unless the planning board determines the operation will not have a detrimental effect on the surrounding land uses, and that no adverse environmental conditions will be created as a result of the operation.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on that motion? Okay, I'll go through the roll one more time. Eric, I'll start with you.
No.
Steve?
No.
Laura?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Rob?
No.
And I will vote yes. So I believe we are, Alan, were you a yes?
Yes.
So I believe it was 3-3.
I'll make a motion to approve the special permit for the building over 10,000 square feet and 25 or more parking spaces with the listed conditions.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second in the affirmative, correct?
Correct.
To approve with standard conditions. Okay, any further discussion on that motion? Okay, I'll go through the roll here again. Eric?
No.
Steve?
No.
Laura?
No.
Alan?
No.
Rob?
No.
And I will vote no as well.
I'll make a motion to approve do you want to do the site plan anyway?
Yes, Paul, should we proceed on the site plan at this point?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve site plan 6 with the 3 requested waivers.
Seconded.
So a motion and a second to approve the site plan again in the affirmative with the 3 stated waivers for the map scale, landscaping requirements, and is the parking correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion on that motion?
Actually, it was driveway width, the landscape buffer, land scale, to be specific.
Driveway width, not parking. I was close.
Correct, you were close.
I'm sorry, for the parking, it's a landscaping buffer for both between the building and the street, and also the landscaping requirements within the parking lot.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, Paul. Additional comments on the motion specific? Okay, and on the site plan, Eric, I'll go to you again.
No.
Steve?
No.
Laura?
No.
Alan?
Yes.
Rob?
No.
And I will vote yes. I believe that was 2-4. Okay,
That's great.
okay. I believe that's all the motions that we need on this application. Paul, we can work on finalizing a decision and get that posted. And send further, we can continue.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody wanted to, I believe that closes our action on this item. Is there anything else anybody wanted to discuss in this open session this evening?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
I just want to comment, you guys look good.
Thanks.
No, seriously, they're in the room and all stuff, I didn't know that was coming.
Well,
Looks
you-
like a board meeting.
You didn't see us scramble around trying to make sure the microphones were working and everything else 5 minutes before we started, so
Don't take that as a joke, your presentation is good, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
thank you, Rob.
Can you hear okay?
Yes, very well, everything. The only comment, and I just said it, should to you, Paul, is that you can't see people at the podium. I feel like, as far as they're presenting, that undercuts them a little. If we could ever get a camera item angle that picks that up too, it would be a good thing.
Yeah, it'll be there for the media center recording, because they have the camera on the other side.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and eventually this room and Winnaconic will be fully operational in terms of audio and video. So what you're seeing, Rob, is actually off of a laptop. But when it's fully operational, they'll have cameras, they'll have remote cameras that'll pick up everything.
You're still doing the laptop thing. I'm actually impressed with how well it's working.
Yeah.
This is my first time seeing it through this angle, this perspective. I'm usually in the room.
Okay.
Anyhow, I don't want to take up more time. I just want to tell you all the presentation is coming up well.
Thank you, Rob. So we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.